What's up, everybody? Subs here for Cincinnati Soccer Talk with a special announcement regarding the podcast. Many of you don't know this, but there's this awards ceremony show website called the Podcast Awards. Cincinnati Soccer Talk is up for nomination for the Sports Podcast of the Year. What does that mean? We need more nominations from you. Log on to cincinnatissoccertalk.com/nominate. In the sports category, there's a little drop-down menu. Pick Cincinnati Soccer Talk as your sports selection. If you're a podcast listener and you listen to some other shows and some other categories, feel free to drop down and select those as well. We want to be the winner of the 2017 Sports Podcast of the Year, and you can help us do that by going to cincinnatissoccertalk.com/nominate. Yes, it's going to require you to register and give up an email address. They will not spam you, but they just want to verify your email address as a nominator or a voter. So again, cincinnatissoccertalk.com/nominate. We do this show for you, and we really want to bring home this award and celebrate this with the entire FC Cincinnati community. From all of us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk, we thank you for your support of our podcast.
Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, powered by FC Cincinnati supporters. Get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at cincysoccertalk@spmt.tv. Now, here is your host, Nick Suberlin.
What's happening, Cincinnati Soccer Talkers? I'm Subs. Pleased to be with you here on episode 75 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Lots to discuss this week. Of course, FC Cincinnati getting 3 big points over the weekend against Harrisburg City Islanders in what was a very interesting game considering all the weather delays, despite 0 drops of rain. Of course, we know FC Cincinnati took on Valencia from La Liga last night. We're going to be talking about that match and, of course, looking ahead to another home game coming up. This time, FC Cincinnati getting ready to take on another USL opponent. But we want to hear from you, FC Cincinnati fans. Make sure you get in touch with us on the King's Hammer hotline. Our main man, Yosef, ready to take your calls tonight. Of course, you can hit us up on Twitter as well at Cincy Soccer Talk. And, of course, each and every week, I can't do this show by myself. I'm pleased to be with my tag team partners, my fantastic, I don't even know what other adjective to give to these gentlemen because they're so good at what they do. I'll start with the one and only Boston Brazil. Boston, how are you this week?
Doing well. Sue started the week off with a soccer game right at the get-go. 2 days after I ended the week with a soccer game. All FC Cincinnati, all the time. Loving it.
3 days after you celebrated your 30th birthday as well. Happy birthday, Boston.
Thank you. Had a great birthday. Got to hang out with some of the Cincinnati Soccer Talk guys and other friends. And everybody was great. You know, I don't feel any different, but I'll just keep podcasting.
Oh, we're glad to have you this week. Glad that you were actually out, being down at the game this week. And I was glad to just see you at the games. I was actually surprised knowing the shenanigans that occurred on Friday night. It was good to see you, man.
Thanks.
And of course, this week we've got our resident genius, the one and only, the Wolfman, Bill Wolf, Mr. Drum Extraordinaire. Bill, how are you doing?
Good. Genius is probably a large stretch, but doing good. Like Boston said, it's all FCC all the time. The 2 games in a row, and of course, there's no rest from there. Right, we go straight into a game this weekend, and then a game midweek, and I'm traveling, so I'm off to Boston this weekend. I'll miss the game, so that's a bummer. But then I'll be basically heading straight from Boston to Miami and catching a game down there. So yeah, it's like just continuing life of FCC.
Soccer overload, and it's that doesn't even include your son's soccer, which I know you're starting to get busy with that too. So it's just the definition of soccer family in the dictionary is going to have a picture of you and a lot of families, I'm sure, that listen to this podcast.
Yeah, the Boston trip is actually for my son. It's an ID camp. So
explain, because I don't know what that means. What is an ID camp?
That's where kids get together basically, and it's a camp. So they'll do drills and short-sided games and probably large-sided games eventually, and 11v11, et cetera. And college coaches are there to watch them. So, they're kind of, in general, I don't want to like say too much, but kind of ripoffs. You're paying. If you just go around and just join all these ID camps just for the heck of it, you're just paying a lot of money for camps, and you'll get something out of them. But it's not like you're going to be like messy all of a sudden because you go to a bunch of ID camps. But in this case, it's a little different. This is a college that my son's interested in. We already talked to the coach, tried to get him to come out to a game, and he basically said, "I don't go out to games. Come to my ID camp." So in this case, it's a little different. You already have a relationship with the coach, and you're basically going there to be seen by that coach.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard the term ID camp many moons ago, but wasn't exactly sure what that means. So that's interesting. Cool. Well, I hope he has fun.
Yeah, I think he will. But I think the main thing is just if you're just showing up at these camps cold and expecting to get seen, it can happen. It's not that it can't, but really it's more about creating that personal relationship with the coach before the camp.
Sure. Awesome. Well,
my opinion.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, this is an FC Cincinnati podcast. We will touch on that tonight because there is a lot to discuss. So let's start with Saturday night, shall we? FC Cincinnati 3-0 winners over Harrisburg City, despite a match that had 2 weather delays, despite there being 0 rainfall. Quite interesting match. I don't know if that was a blessing or not, considering I was all painted up. Maybe it was good that it rained. I was actually kind of hoping it would rain so I can get that paint off of me. My mom and dad's shower took the brunt of it in Westchester. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But it was a good match. It was good to see guys get on the score sheet that hadn't this year. It was good to see FC Cincinnati keep another Widmer's clean sheet and make it 10 on the year. Log on to widmerscleaners.com to learn more about their fluff and fold laundry service. Who wouldn't want to have their laundry fluffed and folded? I know I would. Check it out at widmerscleaners.com. But that's 10 clean sheets on the year, guys. And, the way the year started, giving up all the goals that they did, the fact that they're now double-digit clean sheets this year, Mitch with double-digit clean sheets this year, is huge for this club.
Yeah, we made a big deal about it going in that, we wanted to score a bunch of goals, and that's what we needed to do to be a top dog. And of course, we're not a top dog, but we're certainly climbing the ranks. And I think a lot of it's actually from the defensive side. It's not to say that that we're not doing okay offensively. Obviously, GB's in the running for the Golden Boot, so we're not doing too bad. But yeah, it's the season started off talking offense, and really what we're talking about is defense.
Yeah, there was a lot of things I liked out of Saturday. Seeing 3 different offensive players score against a team that is actually pretty good. Harrisburg fell out of the playoff standings with our win, but they were a team, and they are one that can still climb back in it. They're a young team. They make mistakes because they're young, but they also have a lot of speed and a lot of firepower, and they can easily steal games and steal points from teams. I mean, they beat Louisville.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
They came in one of the form teams in the USL. They were playing well. They had won two out of their last 3, and one of those being in the draw. So they were unbeaten in 3 matches and playing quite well. And I will say this, and I don't know what you guys think, but early on in that match, before the first weather delay, I actually thought Harrisburg controlled the game and were looking more dangerous than FC Cincinnati were.
Yeah, I wrote about it in this week's column. I feel like that was almost their plan. If I was their coach, I feel like the game plan was, all right, let's go out there, let's control the pace of the game, let's immediately take over right from the get-go. And Cincinnati let them do it, knowing you can't play like that for 90 minutes. They wore those guys out.
Yeah, I thought that as well, Boston. Just thinking about the fact that we were fresher and that, we could, sustain a little bit more time on the field, it would make sense for us to sit back. Certainly for them, it would make sense for them away, knowing they're going to get fatigued, to try to get something early and then just hunker down and protect it. And that was my thought as well. The only thing I'd say is listening to the post-match comments from Alan Koch, he absolutely did not agree with that, which surprised me, because I kind of felt like that's what they were doing. And that's not what his plan was. So, he kind of came out and said, if anything, that lightning was a blessing, because it gave me a chance to coach midway through a half and say, guys, this isn't what we planned. and it made a difference. I mean, they came out, and that second piece after that, whatever it was, hour delay, that second quarter, because I think they played 4 quarters, was, way better. I mean, that 15 minutes or whatever it was that was left was definitely a changer.
Yeah, they come back out after what was basically almost a halftime locker room talk, a lengthy delay due to lightning in the area of Nippert Stadium. Despite there being no rain, we knew the call was going to come eventually because the Reds game was under a rain delay. And considering we're not that far away from Great American Ballpark, I was surprised it took as long as it did for the weather delay to occur there at Nippert Stadium. So it basically became like a halftime talk. He got to go into the locker room, make some adjustments, make some changes, and you could tell right away after that little break that FC Cincinnati appeared more fresh. They had a little bit more energy, and maybe it's because they've gone through these weather delays before this year. I wonder how much that has gone into it. They knew how to, recuperate, get warmed up properly. When you don't do it a lot, it's probably not something easy to do. They've gone through it this year with their delay down in Miami, with their delay earlier this year against Bethlehem Steel. They came out, they were more fresh, and GB with a beautiful goal to get to things to 1-0 right before the half. That was a really good goal, guys.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead, Boston.
Oh, no, I loved seeing the energy from him. Occasionally you'll hear a fan call him lazy or whatever, but that was all GB making a chance for himself, stealing a ball, running down the field, putting it away. No assist, 100% GB.
Yeah, it was a really good goal by him. And then we go to the halftime locker room up 1-0 in the second, I guess you can call it the period because it was almost more like a hockey game with the way all the breaks occurred. FC Cincinnati gets on the board again. This time from Danny Koenig, putting it right through the legs of Miller, the goalkeeper for Harrisburg. That made it 2-0. And then we have yet another lightning delay. This one right around the 83rd. It might actually have been the 78th minute. I can't remember. I know it was late. And we were all thinking, okay, this game is official. Let's wrap it up. These guys got to play on Monday night against Valencia. And oh, how I am so glad that they did not wrap it up and call it a night, because guess who predicted a 3-0 win last week on the Growler Cup predictions? That's right, I did. Jimmy McLaughlin, finally. This goal has been coming for weeks, guys. Gets on the board after the second weather delay, makes it 3-0. They actually had a chance to make it 4-0 with a 3-on-1 opportunity and just couldn't put it in the net, thankfully. But it was good to see Jimmy get on the score sheet. He's been so close for so long, and you could sense that relief finally coming on for him, because he had been really struggling, and it was starting to boil over a little bit on the field when chances weren't going his way. Now he can relax a little bit now that he's got one in the back of the net. Maybe this means a hot streak for Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I was 2-0, so I can't exactly go with your sentiment on the extra time there, though. I love Jimmy to death, so I have to feel for him, and getting that goal was so wonderful. I mean, I think every fan out there has been just feeling it for him. I mean, every time that ball, would be on target, and those goalkeepers just kept coming up big, and you could just see his frustration, and the fans have just been dying for him to. So it was just wonderful to see. I actually talked to him on Sunday at the Valencia event, and I mean, he was still bubbling, I think, about that. He was excited, which was awesome. I mean, he was just, he's like, oh, I just really need to do that, and now it's just going to get easier. So I think he's kind of thinking the same thing. It's time for a Jimmy McLaughlin, scoring streak now. So
yeah, he needs to do it all over again, though, because most of the fans had left the stadium after
this is true.
2 lightning delays. And so I want to see a 20,000 crowd watch Jimmy McLaughlin score a goal and go nuts, because he's obviously a fan favorite. I was with Yosef, and the two of us were starving. You've sat through 2 rain delays. We never got dinner. And halfway through that second rain delay, we're talking amongst ourselves like, should we? Like, can we try to find food? Like, oh, man, what are we going to do? And I was like, you know what? Let's stick it out. So the two of us sat there. We stuck it out. McLaughlin scores, and we look at each other, and we were like, yes, this was so worth it. Staying was worth it.
Absolutely. Though I want to back up just a little bit and talk about that second goal. And I know we probably don't want to spend the entire time talking about this one game. But of the 3 goals, I mean, GB had a great goal. McLaughlin had a great goal. Excited for both of them. GB moving closer to the golden boot. McLaughlin just needing to open up that sheet and get that second goal and keep it going. But the one that really impressed me was the second goal. And there's a couple reasons for it. One is there's always been this question about, why don't we have Danny and why don't we have GB playing at the same time? We don't see that very often. Is there a personality issue? Is there just a playing issue? Do these guys not work well together? There's just no indication there's a problem there. And certainly, it was just a brilliant play, I think, on both their parts. I mean, GB looked up, he saw Danny, he knew he wanted to connect, but he waited because Danny was offside. And Danny realized he was offside. He steps back behind the defender. And at that moment, GB slots the ball through. Danny runs into it and Meg's the keeper. I mean, how much more could you ask for? The two people so aware of where each other were, making that play work exactly right. And then a Meg is always beautiful. So when you can Meg a keeper, so
it was a great goal. You're right, Bill. And that was a good way to describe it too. Perfect play, well-timed run by Koenig, and to put it right through the keeper's legs like he did right in front of the Bailey was pretty awesome. And it was funny that Jimmy did get that goal in front of like 500 people. So that must be what it's like to watch other USL games around the league. Oh, I'm kidding, of course.
Shots fired.
Yeah. No, it was cool, and kudos to everybody who stuck around because it did make for a long night. And I'll admit, I was in your shoes, Boston, because I was starving. I did not eat one single thing that day because I knew the day that I was going to have with the painting and the waxing, and yeah, I wasn't going to risk anything, so I didn't eat anything. And I know I had my heart set on Skyline Chili. And my friend Boston and Joseph, you came through. You found me at Boston or at Skyline there, and it was a good night. It was a good night overall. I had a lot of fun painting up. There is a precedent now because when Weigel painted up and when I painted up, FC Cincinnati's outscored their opponents 7-0. So no pressure there for the rest of the games. Luckily, there's only 5 home games left, but still, it was a good time. While we're on the subject of painting up, I've got to give a big shout-out and thanks to Tom Grabo, the Cincy superfan, and Stevie, his lovely girlfriend, for helping me paint up and keeping me company during the games because I knew Bill was going to be busy drumming, as always. Boston and Joseph were off doing their own thing, but it was cool to be down in the front row of the Bailey and chant. And I got to give a shout-out and thanks to Alex Veer for taking great photos, Chris Weimer from the Bailey Bastards for painting up with me. If you haven't seen it, we've got video on our YouTube channel. You can go check it out. You can see me getting waxed. You can see me getting painted up. You can see Chris getting painted up like Papa Smurf with the white facial hair and blue and the little Smurf hat. It was a good day and had a lot of fun. So thanks to everybody who stopped and said hi and took pictures with us. And it was just, we had a great day with Mr. Delbridge. Harrison's dad was there was a Hangover Easy Bill. We got to hang out with him. And it was cool. Like
Andrew.
Yeah. Andrew had so many nice things to say about what we do, which was really, really cool. So Andrew, thank you. Cause I know he's watching. Thank you for the kind words. And it was great meeting you as well. But it was just a really great overall weekend. And that was just Saturday night, guys, because then FC Cincinnati, they played again on Monday night against Valencia. But before we can get to that game, again, we want to hear from you. 513-399-KICK. That's the King's Hammer hotline. Joseph is ready to take your calls. And speaking of the King's Hammer hotline, why don't we go to that hotline? Let's welcome in our good friend to the show, Yersky, one of those guys who's also painted up each and every week. Yersky, how you feeling, buddy? I know you just had surgery. You doing all right? You hanging in there?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. A little bit of back pain. It feels like it's I would compare it to a Charlie horse in my back. So other than that, I'm on some pretty high-quality drugs right now. So I really don't feel much of anything, but it's good to hear you guys because I've been laying in bed pretty much straight for 2 days.
Well, what's on your mind tonight? I know you talked. Looks like you want to talk about subs.
Yeah. So last year we had the benefit of having 5 subs that you could sub in 5 different players, and it would it allowed us to stretch the team. So if it allowed new players to get a chance, didn't run some players dry as much as this year. I want to know from you guys, do you think having 3 subs instead of 5 subs this year is a benefit, or is it a detriment to the team?
Well,
Go ahead,
if you
Boston.
don't mind, right off the bat, I want to just remind everyone who has a hard memory of how often John Harkes used 5 subs.
Right. It was almost never.
Yeah. So you're looking at a FC Cincinnati team that's kept most of their starters out there. We would use 3, sometimes even 2, like on a very rare occasion 4. And other teams were the ones benefiting from 5 subs. I mean, I can remember listening to this podcast way back at the beginning of last year and hearing, why do we not use 5 subs? Everyone else does, and our guys are tired and they're not. And I feel like it was an advantage for other teams. And removing that advantage, I feel like this year has been in FC Cincinnati's favor. Plus, it makes the league look professional all around.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is, I think John Harkes, obviously, he played a lot of games at a higher level, so it was never used to that 5 sub rule. So I think it was probably uncomfortable for him to think about tactics in that way. Perhaps Coach Koch would have been more adept at it, since he did do a year in the USL with the Whitecaps too. Maybe that would have been, a more natural thing for him to use 5 subs. But I agree. Last year it was more of a disadvantage, just because tactically it wasn't really how we thought about the game. We tended to think more along like an MLS type of, world standard 3 sub rule, and we just didn't take advantage of that. So we'd often get out coached in some senses.
I think it's benefited us big time this year, the fact that we're not used to relying on that 5th super sub to come in and run past guys. I think that's helped us this year. I also think it's helped because I feel like this team is pretty deep. And when you're bringing on 3 guys, they are 3 of really, honestly, they are of starter caliber. You could plug in these subs in any game and they're starting for FC Cincinnati. Whereas with this 5 sub rule, maybe you're bringing it off a guy who's strictly a bench player and isn't going to start. So that's the way I look at it. I think it's been a big impact on the league. I think it's been to FC Cincinnati's benefit this year.
I think it also, just like you said, I think it's a good impact for the league. I mean, from a USL standpoint, the 5 sub kind of makes you feel a little bit like you're a development league. And I think USL wanted to get beyond that. So it's the right thing to do anyway. And we were certainly ready and prepared to take care of it. Take advantage of it. Thanks, Yersky.
Yeah, you got anything else you want to add there, Yersky?
Thanks. No, that you guys covered that in every aspect of that question, so I appreciate it.
Well, hope you feel better soon and get well soon. All right, buddy.
Night, guys.
Thanks, you too.
All right, have a great night. All right.
That's Yersky giving us a ring here on the King's Hammer hotline. We got lines open. Yosef's ready to take your call, 513-399-KICK. Before we move on and discuss the Valencia game, which happened on Monday night, there was a big announcement surrounding FC Cincinnati over the weekend on Sunday, and that is the big cat, Omar Cummings, hanging up his boots, retiring after what is, I think, a really, really top-notch, successful soccer career here in the United States. He was an MLS champion with Colorado Rapids in the 2000s. He obviously graduated from the university. Well, he played at the University of Cincinnati soccer team. He's going back to school to get his degree, and he's now moving into a front office role with FC Cincinnati. Played his final match last night against Valencia. We saw him last year come back to Cincinnati. We were expecting big things from him. I think he got here injured already before he could finally get rehabbed. We saw him see the field. He scored a game winner against Toronto last year up in Toronto. We saw him get injured late last year, and it looks like that injury kind of really did him in, guys, which is unfortunate because I was expecting a lot of big things for Omar. And that's not to say that he didn't provide big things, but he kind of brought what's the word? He was the higher profile free agent they brought in when the team was announced last year. He was the one guy on that roster where soccer fans from around the country said, wow, okay, they're bringing in Cummings, who's got MLS experience. He's got national team experience with Jamaica. That was kind of a big deal. So, Omar, I know you're not watching this, but if you are, congratulations on a great career. We're honored that you came back to Cincinnati, and I was really proud of the club, the way they handled that last night with the cool ceremony, and it was good to see him off that way, guys.
Yeah, I think it was a special moment last night anyway. I'm not sure how well it carried across to the rest of the stadium, but there was a lot of Omar chants going on in the Bailey. We were definitely trying to pay homage as best as we could to a man that we had a lot of respect for. Probably the big one that we did twice and it took forever, but hey, that's you only have these moments once in a while. Was the sort of the 12 days of Omar. So we literally went down through the whole 12 days of Christmas, and a big cat named Omar Cummings was the first day. So, it was a lot of fun and we just, kept doing that. We kind of reappropriated the Ugo chant into an Omar chant. He definitely could hear us at times. I know he was doing his post-match interview with Lindsay and, she actually commented, they're calling for you in the Bailey. Why don't you head over there and, they want to see you. And he did. He walked over obviously at that point and the Bailey loved it. And, I think that was a good moment for him. So.
And I was really pleased. I had the small, very small opportunity to be on the field with him for the skills challenge video we did a few weeks ago with Ben Knapp. I mean, he participated in that and couldn't have been nicer that day. And, everything you hear about Omar Cummings, Boston, is just nothing but positive. And I know, as a fan of FC Cincinnati and as a fan of the city of Cincinnati, to have him on board to really start engaging the youth in this city as far as soccer goes, I think this is an absolute positive. I'm glad he's with us and not easily an MLS squad where he could have gone and easily gotten a gig because he's that talented of a player.
Yeah, it's going to be great to have him in Cincinnati. I know that he's put down some roots. He's doing a little business in the city as well. But who else would you want training your kid? That's awesome for Cincinnati just to hold on to a guy like that. It shows that, hey, we have a player. He's retiring. He still loves the organization so much that he's going to stay on and help. I know that there was a void in that role since Alan Koch took the head coaching job. I think it's great to bring him in and have him run camps. In fact, someone today on Reddit said they were a 12-year-old when Omar was playing for UC, and he came out and did a camp then, and they walked away thoroughly impressed. They thought he was the best person on the UC roster to be teaching them. So shout out from 12 years ago. He's only gotten better.
Yeah, no kidding. And again, we wish you nothing but congrats on a great career, and we're looking forward to the things you'll have in store for the FC Cincinnati youth and the front office as you take on your new endeavor in life. So, Omar, congratulations on your retirement from playing football. In the meantime, there was a match to be played last night. It was against Valencia, a La Liga side. This was a game that a lot of people were excited for. A lot of people were comparing to last year's friendly against Crystal Palace, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit tonight, because there is the sense, and you could see this from Twitter, you could see this from some of the media kind of questioning fans of soccer in Cincinnati, wondering why this game didn't sell out like it did last year for Crystal Palace. We'll get to that here in a minute. But first, you guys were at the match. Your thoughts overall? I'll start with you, Bill.
It was definitely odd. But I don't think it was unexpected. With all of the fixture congestion we have right now, the USL is obviously very important to us. We're starting to try to make a climb here at the end. And then this Open Cup run that has just been, a fantasy story in and of itself. We've got double priorities. So to try to make this a priority was kind of asking too much. So, when we trotted out the roster, the lineup, the starting 11 for this game, it was not a lineup that you would expect to do well. There was a lot of people who have had very little time on the field. People that, people maybe even have forgotten are on the roster. People like Melee, Aaron Walker, who we haven't barely seen at all. And, I think, well, Melee didn't start, but anyway, the point is that there was players out there that we have not seen a lot of. Dominguez, we've seen some of, he started. Half Hill, we've seen a little bit of. He started. We had some new players. That was a nice thing. Actually, I think Sam DeWitt got a start on this one. Kyle Gregg, who we saw come in very briefly at the end of the Harrisburg game, he actually got to start in this one. So there was a lot of people we didn't know, or people that were not getting a lot of time, and that we wouldn't expect much, especially against a La Liga team. We know that they've struggled a little bit in the last few years, but they're still a Liga team, and there's quality there. So I kind of expected us to get rolled over, and to be honest, it really didn't happen that way. I mean, they held for the first 45 minutes pretty well. I mean, we weren't the better team, but we certainly were not. Like when we played Chicago Fire, that first 25 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes, we literally were on our back heel just defending.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
It wasn't like that at all. I mean, this was a much more even-paced game. To be honest, I don't know how much Valencia really came at us. I mean, they definitely treated this like a friendly. And I mean, I think everybody wants to win, but there was not at some level, it was kind of a boring game, to be honest, just because everybody was kind of relaxed.
And it was just kind of, the way it all played out, the scheduling issues that came up because of that particular date, having to reschedule Harrisburg for Saturday and then to put that game 48 hours after playing especially 2 weather delays against Harrisburg, to then come back and have to play against Valencia. Probably not a lot of starters were going to play against Valencia, but still, I just feel like, and Boston, you can speak to this too, there's been a lot of extras that you had to buy this year. So you had to buy the extra tickets for the Louisville game. You had to buy the extra tickets for the Columbus game and the Fire game, and then this Valencia game, and now we've got the U.S. Women's National Team. All kind of things that, when you buy your season tickets, you don't really account for those extra expenditures, And so maybe this is one of those games where people just said, I'll catch next year's. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're dead right. Last year, Crystal Palace had 35,000 people. It was first year of the club. No U.S. Open Cup games besides the first one. And that one was free. And so everything was just kind of rolling along. And then you have Crystal Palace on a Saturday, and it was this giant moment for that whole season. This year, you have, I would argue, bigger moments. Columbus, boom. Chicago, wow. And then it's Valencia on a Monday. I think, honestly, you saw, I would say you saw a dip in season ticket holders, but the game was heavily advertised. You couldn't go on Facebook, or even my flashlight app on my phone had a Valencia ad pop up. So it was a lot of new people, and I think that is good for the club. That brought people out that may not go to a normal league game, and maybe, just maybe, they'll come back. So that's what I was excited to see. I did like just that the whole lower bowl filled up. Even some people were sitting at the top. Cincinnati loses zero credibility because 23,000 people still showed up on a Monday, and that's excellent.
Yeah, it's going to take Louisville 3 games to get that. Ayo, Patty in the chat. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I don't want to cut you off, but I was going to say, not only did we just play 2 days earlier, but also Valencia had played 2 days earlier in Canada. They played the New York Cosmos up there, and so they had the same issue with less roster rotation capabilities than we did, and it maybe some delays in travel that also cost them some time. But in the end, I think they only had 15,000 people up there. So we're worried about 23,000 on a Monday. They drew 15,000 on a Saturday. For an international friendly, 23,000 is pretty dang good.
Oh, absolutely. There are a lot of teams in USL and MLS that would kill for 23,000 people to come to an international friendly. So I just, when you compare it to last year was such a magical event, such a big time event for the city. At one point was the record holder for largest attended soccer game in the state of Ohio. Of course, that was broken a little bit later on when PSG played Chelsea up at Ohio Stadium. But, it was a different kind of game this year. And Patty, was a big follower of the show, big fan. She even chimes in, says, plus the tickets cost more for the friendly. you factor all that into it, and that explains why maybe you don't sell that game out. But just like Boston said, you've got other moments this season that have been more important for games also that mean something. And in the end, it's a friendly. No, you're not going to get 3 points from this. You're not going to improve in the standings. It's a good opportunity for guys who haven't played this year to get some minutes. But in the end, it's just a friendly, and it's cool to see teams from Europe to come over here. Now, I'm going to ask you this, guys, because the game, as you said, Bill, you didn't find all that interesting. Do you think that this is something they should schedule every year, or would the club be better off maybe doing this every other year and kind of making it maybe special is not the right word, but you're not going to have a year like FC Cincinnati is having this year where you knock off 2 MLS teams at home. I mean, this is such an outlier of a year that maybe you keep doing these friendlies every year.
Yeah, I think we would still keep doing them, especially while we're in the USL. Like you said, I think the 2 MLS games, the U.S. Women's National Team game, even the possibility of a third MLS team, which people are aware of at this point before they were buying late tickets for this Valencia game. I mean, it's just crazy. It's not going to happen very often, I don't think. I mean, it'd be great if it did every year, but I don't think so. It's right now, I think what it is, it's about us basically trying to get our brand out there. The more times FCC gets their name into the national headlines, the more we up our brand and secure a spot in the MLS. I think Jeff Birding has often commented that, if you want to be major league, you have to act major league, right? You don't start off small and try to, build up to it. This is who we are. We're major league. We're going to start that way. And, the MLS teams, they're bringing in these friendlies. We know the Crew just had Frankfurt. So, if we want to act like an MLS team, that's what we got to do. And if we want to be an MLS team, let's start acting like one now instead of waiting until somebody gifts us that.
Yeah. The real quick though, we had a question on Facebook that said from Tyler Mogus. He said, between Crystal Palace last year and Valencia this year, you've seen 2 head coaches comment that FC Cincinnati should be in the MLS. Do you think that either of those comments have any factor or matter at all, or do they say something about the city?
Well, thank you for the question, Tyler. No, I don't think it has any. I think the MLS has their agenda. They're not going to care what Valencia's head coach is going to say. They're not going to care what the fired head coach from Crystal Palace is going to say. MLS has their plan. They know what they want to do. Does it look good? Does it help the optics for FC Cincinnati? I would say sure. But in the end, it's going to come down to the requirements. And there's that magic word again. It's the requirements to get into MLS. So I don't think personally it has any bearing whatsoever. What do you guys think?
Oh, I agree. I don't think their comments mean anything to Don Garber, but I do agree on the optics. I mean, when you're coming down to the requirements, and we can repeat them again, right? Obviously, it's ownership, which I think we've checked off pretty heavily and pretty well. The stadium, which that's a whole nother discussion. So let's not go there, but let's just call it a check for now. And then, the other one comes down to support, right? And there's the 2 sides of the support. There's the media market and there's the butts in the seats kind of support. And this is a butts in the seat, moment. So when we say we have a city that loves soccer and we can draw 23,000 people to an international friendly, that's part of us making that play that we have support.
Good take there, Bill. I agree with you 100%. Thanks for the question, Tyler. Let's go to the Kings Hammer hotline. Rob's been waiting patiently on hold. Rob, welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
Yes, I have been waiting patiently, but it's well worth it. How you doing, Subs?
Doing good. How about you, buddy?
Hey.
Good. My first question to you is, Subs, what were you thinking waxing all your hair off and painting the body? That is something I never thought that you would do for a soccer team.
Well, I got to say, last week when we announced that I'd be painting up for the Harrisburg game, Ryan Weigel said...
No, I didn't think you.
Brian
Well, I
Weigel.
didn't think that you were going to. Sorry, I didn't think you were going to go through with it.
Well, I'm a man of my word. And so when
There you go.
Brian Weigel said, I've got to clean the canvas, I got to thinking, well, there are a couple ways we could do this. And Ben Knapp was willing to willing to wax another man, which is fine. It was fun, and he did a great job. And
Yeah.
I'm glad we captured it on film, and I hope everybody liked it. I thought it was funny. It was painful, but
It was awesome.
what was
It was
more
awesome
what
to
was
see
more
that.
painful, though, honestly, Rob, was the heat and my paint like melting.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah. But anyway, shout out to you. Shout out to Grabo and Stevie, our super couple. I call them super fan and fangirl. And a shout out to Krista Nome for doing that. That proves some loyalty, man. That proves some good loyalty. And shout out to Yersky too, because I know he paints up too, no matter what the weather. And I know Yersky, you're a little banged up right now, have some surgery. Get well fast and get back to us, man.
awesome. You got any questions for us, Robert? Is that all you wanted to talk about tonight?
I got a question.
All right.
Wasn't that a great weekend? Wasn't it a really great weekend for soccer in Cincinnati? Another awesome weekend. With the win, with Jimmy Mack pulling through again, and with that great Monday night game, packing seats there. I was looking at it and I didn't really think that we were going to fill that stadium for Monday night. But once again, they overdid every one of my expectations, and I have high expectations.
Yeah, honestly,
wasn't that a great weekend?
I would say, when I was at the game Saturday night for Harrisburg, and they announced just over 18,000, and I remember looking at, I thought the lower bowl was pretty full, honestly. So when I saw they didn't get to 20, I was actually kind of surprised by that. But even still, 18,000 is still above their average for this year, I think. I'd have to go back and check their attendances for the year, but that's still pretty dang good. And you're right, it was a good event. Bill, you were at the VIP event Sunday night, which we could talk about that here in a little bit too. You're right, Rob. It was a really good weekend for soccer in the Queen City, and it's
another one.
Yeah, and it's weekends like this where it is probably a great idea. Maybe schedule them a little farther apart between games, but but it was good. It was a good weekend.
I actually agree with the people that think that this shouldn't be in every single season kind of thing. I mean, I know we're trying for MLS and all that, but these international friendlies are a very special thing, especially with the USL squad. And if we keep doing them every single year, it might come to a point where people might think, oh, another one? All right, well, we've seen a couple of them. It won't be that special. So I think it should be every other year, even after we get to MLS, just to get that time to build up to what we had last year, because last year was special. And to be quite honest, I had to work yesterday, so I probably wasn't even. I almost didn't go to last night's match myself, but I ended up going. It was a really great time. I just think that we need to be careful in terms of scheduling them and how many seasons it takes us to get another one, just to keep that specialness of Crystal Palace going. And because the idea of going to MLS and acting like an MLS team, we're already doing that, even without the international friendlies. We're already doing that by the way we play on the field. We have MLS quality players already. We're getting butts in the seats like Bill and you were talking about. We're already MLS caliber. It's just up to Don Garber, and no one can tap into Don Garber's mind. So we got to keep doing what we're doing. But I thought it was a really great weekend. Omar made me cry a little bit, and before I let you guys go, I wanted to. I hope Omar's listening. I've been following him since UC. I followed him in Colorado. Everywhere he went, he amazed me every single time. he stepped on the field. He amazed me with every single move he made, with every goal he scored. And Omar, if you're listening, thank you. I love you, brother. You're a good friend. You were a great player. And hopefully we'll catch you in an old-timers game one of these days, when about 20 years down the road when we're in MLS. But I'm glad to see that he's back, and he's going to be working with us. So anyway, I've probably taken up a longer time than you wanted me to do. So I'm going to get off here. I'll see you guys Saturday. Good work. I'll see you guys then.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the call, buddy. I echo those sentiments too about Omar. That's really well said. And you know, one of the things I like that they do over in Europe, they do testimonials, and maybe for one night as a charity event, you get Omar together with some of his favorite teammates, and you play, another team. Maybe a couple MLS teams come in or something. They do. That's what they do over in Europe. Maybe it's something to explore. A good way to raise money for a charity and whatnot. If you're listening, Jeff Birding, just saying. Anyway, Bill, quickly talk about the VIP event, because I know you were there Sunday night, and nothing but good things to say, I'm sure.
Yeah, Brad was there as well. Of course, he's not on the air, so he can't comment. But yeah, it was very nice. I didn't really know exactly what to expect. But I think Brad and I both commented that it was billed as business casual, but there was a lot of people that had a different idea of business casual than we did. They seemed to be a little bit more dressed than we expected, but no, it was all fine. I never felt too weird, wearing a polo. And players were there from FCC. There was a few people from Valencia, but not very many. But to be honest, it was really just about having some of the fan council that were there. Some of the big supporting corporations had people there, and it was just a chance to mix around with some of the players. And it was just a really nice event. They said something about little bite or dinner by the bite, I think is how they put it, which to me meant you were getting like little finger food things, this big, one bite at a time. And that was not the case at all. They had a lot of great food sponsors that were there. Keystone was there with macaroni. They had, I think it was probably UDF with ice cream. They had, I don't even remember. I'm going to be really bad, but yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to try to name them all, but yeah, there was some really good food. I know I was eating like to the point of being full, so I was definitely not finger by the bite, or food by the bite, or dinner by the bite, or whatever I want to call it. Forget it. I'm obviously missing the whole point here, but no, it was a very nice spread. There was a ton of food. They never ran out. Players were there. They were very friendly, could talk to. Jimmy was there with his grandpa. Had a great conversation with him, like I mentioned. Super excited, very supportive of the show, of course, and all around, just both of them really great guys. So yeah, it was fun. And then a ton of people I know, of course, people from who are just fans of this team who got invited, who were there. So it was fun to see friends in a social environment without, a game, and just to kind of hang out and have a drink and eat a little food and chat
Without having a drum hanging over your shoulders and smoke going everywhere.
Yeah, but fair enough. I probably only go to the Bailey maybe 60% of the time, right? I mean, I do sit with my wife and family occasionally on some games, so I get that relaxed moment too, where I can just enjoy a game and not so much quote work it. But
we got this comment on YouTube from Sean Ackley. Says, I enjoyed last night. It might be the only time I get to see Valencia, so he wants to see these summer friendlies more often. So good input. I appreciate the comment there, Sean. So. It sounded like everybody had a good time yesterday. I'm glad they sold just over 23,000 tickets last night for the Valencia game. And it sounds like Mr. Birding's hard at work on securing an opponent, hopefully for next year. We'll see what happens. They may or may not have one, but if I know Jeff Birding like we think we know him, he's going to work hard to get another friendly to the city next year. But we'd love to hear your feedback. We've got phone lines open, 513-399-KICK. Were you at the Valencia game? Were you at the Harrisburg game? Let us know. We want to hear from you. Joseph is ready to take your call. Let's go back to the Kings Hammer hotline, though. Let's welcome in good friend of the show, Max. Max, welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, buddy.
What up, Subes? You were looking great the other day in that blue paint.
I appreciate you letting me take a selfie with you, too. That was fun.
Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
So you're part of the Build It Here squad. Or movement, or whatever you want to call it. You're part of the guys trying to get the stadium for the future Major League Soccer stadium built in the city of Cincinnati. For folks who don't know what Build It Here is, why don't you educate them?
Yeah, so we're essentially an advocacy group trying to get this stadium deal done in Cincinnati. It's nothing against Newport, but a lot of us, I'll just speak for myself, Cincinnati guy, would love to see the city reinvest in itself and put a stadium on this side of the river. If it goes to Newport, I'm going to games in Newport. I'm hitting drums in Newport. I'm still supporting the team, but just from a Cincinnati perspective, I would love to see them put a little bit of money up and keep this team where it started. Don't want to see another big attraction like a Hofbrauhaus walk across the river when this city could get a deal done to keep it here and keep this city growing that we love so much.
So I know you've recently had some events, and I know you've got one coming up for this Friday night. Tell folks where they can find out more information about Build It Here and what you're doing.
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Twitter. Just Build It Here, real easy, at Build It Here FCC as well. This Friday we'll be at Goodfellas Pizza and OTR, 1211 Main Street. Be there from about 5 to 8. We'll have drink specials, and there'll be pizza available. Maybe we'll even sling some pizzas for those in attendance. And just letting people know how they can get involved. Sit down, write a letter, tweet at a politician, write them an email, mess with them. It's a good time. FCC fans getting together without having to, as you were telling Bill, hauling drums around or getting suffocated by that delicious, delicious smoke, or smock as the ultras call it. We'll probably be putting together like a petition and some form letters for people who don't want to have to write their own, stuff, who aren't as verbose as others. Just really whatever we can do to let people know that there's support out there for a stadium. It's been said a million times, but the deal that they're looking to get done in this city is not like the riverfront. I could drone on and on about the particulars, but I think Carl Lindner and Jeff are looking to treat this city right, and we just have to convince the politicians that this is a good thing for Cincinnati. Again, this is kind of their deal to lose, so we're letting people know that there's support for this kind of thing on this side of the river.
Awesome. So again, where's it going to be Friday night? You said Goodfellas?
Yeah, Goodfellas and OTR, and we'll have the upper floor mezzanine reserved for us for a little while so we can chat, drink, be merry.
And you can find out more information on Build It Here on Facebook and follow them on Twitter at Build It Here FCC. Max, it was great hanging out with you this weekend, and looking forward to hanging out with you in the Bailey again real soon, buddy.
Absolutely. I hope you can make it down again. I would love to see Nick Suberling on the drums, of course, painted up again in all of his Suberling glory.
Will you let me drum? I would love to drum.
Of course, it's not really that complicated. We'll just give you a little pointer, get you set up, get you up to speed, and you'll be flying like the rest of us.
Well, I can tell you this: I'm coming down August 5th, so I'm going to hold you to it, Max.
I expect nothing less. I expect you're a man of your word. I've seen you painted up. You follow through with a bet.
That's right. Thanks for calling, buddy, and we'll see you again real soon.
All right, guys. Thanks.
That's Max. Bill, he's a knight, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's one of the knights of the Bailey, and he's doing something really cool with Build It Here. Check it out on Twitter at Build It Here FCC. He's become one of the more vocal guys when it comes to building the stadium in Cincinnati. And I like that he has the approach that if it's built in Newport, he's going to still go and support the team, whether it's in Newport, whether it's in Cincinnati. But it is a healthy debate, and I think it's a worthy debate. So check it out for more information. They're on Facebook and on Twitter. All right, so we've talked about the Valencia game. We've talked about Omar retiring. We've talked about the Harrisburg win. Now we've got to look ahead, and it's nice to have not another midweek. I guess we technically had a midweek game with Monday, but they've got another game this upcoming weekend. Rochester comes to town, guys. And obviously we know what happened when we went up to Rochester earlier this year. We dropped points. Played a lot of reserves that game. A lot of people that didn't see a lot of minutes this year. I'm pretty sure, guys, it's going to be the opposite this weekend, knowing that FC Cincinnati needs to continue to accumulate points. Right now, they're sitting, I believe, 6th in the table last I checked in the Eastern Conference. Or maybe it's 5th. Thank you, Bill, for correcting me. I knew it was in that region. They're still in fighting chance for a home playoff match, which I know everybody connected to FC Cincinnati wants. But Rochester's a very tough opponent, and one of those teams I don't believe we've ever beaten in our short stint here in the USL. So what kind of problems does Rochester pose for us, Boston?
Well, I got some good news on that front. This is a catch-up week for a lot of those teams that are sitting back with games in hand. Pittsburgh plays twice. Rochester plays twice. Charleston Battery even played twice. And so you're going to see a lot of games this week in the East. If you want to watch the Rhinos, they play tomorrow. And that's going to be a good test. And also, hopefully, wear their guys out a little bit. But they're going to play Toronto at home. And we'll get a good feel for them. But Rochester is still a defensive team. They had struggled at the beginning of the year, but they've really found their footing, kind of like Cincinnati has as the games have gone on. We lost 1-0 to them up in Rochester this year, but we kind of played it safe with the U.S. Open Cup game. So I really look forward to seeing how full-on Cincinnati can face full-on Rochester.
And this is a team, Rochester right now, goal differential of 2. They've only lost once in their last 5 matches, but they've only drawn 3 of them. So they've had 3 draws and 1 win in their last 5. FC Cincinnati, though, Bill, tough at home. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Outside of the one game, it's been a fortress, Nippert Stadium.
Yeah, we had quite a few ties there for a while, but obviously we're into kind of winning ways right now. We've got 3 wins in a row. I have to be honest to get a little ahead of us, maybe a little bit here. I don't see that changing. I mean, Rochester is definitely a good team. They're in the top 8. There's no doubt about it. You know, they've got games in hand, so that says a lot as well. But if you look at them, you know, especially these last 5 games, which would give you a sense of their current form, like you said, there's only 1 win in there, and that was at home. So, you know, away, 3 of the games are away, and it's a loss and 2 ties. So, you know, I think you're looking at a team that's not had a lot of success away. They are very defensive. You know, we were able to do 1-0 with a bunch of reserve players away. I mean, come on. We should be able to do better at home.
And I think that they will too. Let's get into our Growler Cup predictions, guys, because well, you know, I guess I should have probably checked first whether or not Brian Weigel was doing a March to Match Day. But that guy is just sitting around at home doing nothing but watching a little baby not move around, just cry and want to be fed. I'm just kidding, Brian. That's funny, Boston. This coming from the guy who has no kids, by the way. Yeah. So let's do Growler Cup predictions, shall we? I'll start with you, Boston. What do you think is going to happen with FC Cincinnati and Rochester this weekend?
I think we're going to flip the script on them. We're going to win this game 1-0. It's hard to score on the Rhinos, but they got to work with. They got to play on our field now, and we're going to be stronger. They're going to have to rotate a little bit as they run out guys on Wednesday, and I think they'll take Toronto a little bit light. It's very possible. I could actually see Rochester going home with 2 losses this week.
All right. How about you, Bill?
Ooh, I don't know that I'm quite thinking we're like Boston is. They're going to lose twice. I think they're going to go for the 3 points at home. Try to make sure that they secure their home game 3 points, and they'll have a struggle with some, you know, maybe some rotation on us even. But yeah, I'm thinking 2-0. I don't think we can quite do a 3-0 against them. They are a little bit more defensive than say Harrisburg. But you know, it's Nippert and you know, right now we're just on fire. So home field, I think we're going to do well.
I'm kind of torn because I got it right last week with 3-0. The chances of me getting it right this week are slim to none. So I'm going to go. I think it'll be a defensive struggle. I'm going to go for a 1-0. I think the goal is going to come from. I'm going to go. Jimmy's going to get another goal. Watch him not play now. But so I'm going to go for a 1-0. Jimmy McLaughlin getting the game winner. And FC Cincinnati getting another 3 points as they continue to climb those Eastern Conference standings. Of course, we want to hear from you. What do you think FC Cincinnati is going to do this weekend? Of course, you can also partake in our Growler Cup. And I know I said it's not too late. Yeah, it might be tough to catch Brian Weigel this year. He's on fire. What can I say? But if you get entered into the Growler Cup competition this year, you're automatically entered for next year. So go do that over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. And speaking of support, how about this Hell is Real t-shirt that I'm wearing? Right? Check it out. Log on to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/shirts. For those of you listening to the audio podcast, you're probably wondering, what am I talking about? Yeah, I'm holding up my shirt to the camera in case you were wondering. No, you can go get our shirt over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/shirts. When you purchase our shirt, the Hell is Real shirt or the Cincinnati Soccer Talk shirt, that helps Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So that is one way to support us. And they're really nice shirts. I mean, they look great. Ohio Memories did a great job with the design. They're even my wife commented when I put the shirt on tonight. She said, that fits you so nicely. Thank you, honey. I appreciate the kind words. So, again, check it out, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/shirts. Get your Hell is Real, and we put out the fire shirts today. All right. I think it's time we wrap things up here on episode 75. Before we get out of here, we always get to our final thoughts, and I will start with Boston Brazil. Boston, thanks for being with us this week.
Hey, thanks. I really looking forward to this match. Rochester is a tough team. You know, honestly, a draw is probably fairly likely as well. But Cincinnati is just playing great. This is a really fun team to watch right now. And I hope everyone can get out there Saturday. And we've got one more Saturday before they go back on the road. And we got a U.S. Open Cup run coming. It's time to get excited again. Valencia's over. That was kind of this doesn't count, but everything counts here on out.
Good stuff, Boston, as always. Appreciate you being with us. And again, happy birthday, even though it was on Friday. No comment? Okay, cool. He's just nodding his head. That's good for the audio podcast. Thanks, Boston. And before we get out of here, of course, we got to get the final thoughts from the one and only Bill Wolf.
Oh, well, I'll do two thoughts. First off is I don't know where Boston's head is, right? He says that Rhinos are going to lose 2 this week, and then he says that we may end up tying them. So he seems a little unsure of himself right now. But regardless, my final thoughts, I guess, certainly I'm excited about the Rochester game, other than the fact that I'll have to watch it from a hotel room. But yeah, we're going to win that one. I have no question in my mind. I'm actually really excited about the Miami game, though. Obviously, I'll be down there again. I'm going to have to do like an anti-rain dance, I think, just to be sure. I definitely don't want to have to go down there, again. But no, we'll get this game in, obviously, one way or the other. But yeah, I'm really excited. Obviously, this is going to be a big, huge matchup, and we'll talk about it on Tuesday. But that's where my head is at this point. I'm starting to look ahead to that match because I'm out of here on Friday, and I'm basically heading straight to Miami eventually.
Well, glad you were with us this week, Bill. And again, safe travels. I know you're going to have a lot of fun in Boston and in Miami, and hopefully we'll get a full report from you next Wednesday night when hopefully FC Cincinnati's knocking off Miami FC and hosting New York Red Bulls. How fantastic would that be?
Yeah, I hope we don't have to do another Coney phone with me, calling in from a car where the rain is pouring down and, I'm kind of like, felt bad a little bit, that you guys didn't take me up on my offer, but then I kind of felt good about it that, I was told you I'd be like, the weatherman there and I could go out and do a live video, with the torrential rains coming down and, I'd be like, and it's a monsoon here in Miami and, but you guys didn't go for that. So I appreciate that, but, it would have been fun.
That's because we were too busy trying to get Griff kicked out of our hangout with the fire alarm going off at the bar in Miami. Kidding, Griff. Kidding, of course. No, yeah, hopefully. It's funny that you mentioned the Coney phone because during the 2 weather delays against Harrisburg over the weekend, everybody was yelling at me, we got to fire up the Coney phone. I'm like, well, whoops.
Yeah, I'm sitting here on the Bailey with paint and yeah, exactly.
But yeah, those Coney phones are fun, and let's hope we don't have to do those again this year. But it was good hanging out with you again this weekend, Bill, and Boston. My final thoughts as we get out of here. Big thanks to everybody who stopped me and said hi, welcomed me into the different establishments, whether it was Mecklenburg Gardens, the Ladder 19, Hangover Easy. Everywhere I went, everybody had kind words to say. I felt like Norm on Cheers, honestly. Everywhere I walked in, everybody was yelling, Subs! And that was pretty cool, very unique, and honored that everybody gave me that reception. So thank you to everybody. Thank you for not pointing and laughing too hard at my misery over the weekend. It was crazy. I've never in my life, it's weird. I've never in my life wanted to shower more badly than on Saturday night at midnight. It felt very good. And again, thanks to Tom Grabo for painting me up and Chris Weimer for joining me doing that. Again, as we get out of here, make sure you check out our show on iTunes. I do have one thing to say. And I had it was a great experience. I'm glad I had the chance to talk this out with Tom as we were walking out of the stadium. He's an Android user. And, I do a bad job of not explaining to Android users how to subscribe to the podcast. I'm always constantly mentioning iTunes. And it's ironic because I've got 2 Android users on the show with me tonight, Bill and Boston. There is a way to subscribe to our podcast in the Google Play Store. And you can do that by going to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/Google. Or if you don't want to use the Google Play Store, there are other apps available like Stitcher, like TuneIn, where you can download and subscribe to our podcast. Rather than going to the website, Pocket Cast, exactly. That's what I use even on my iPhone. So there are ways to subscribe. So if you are a Google user, an Android user, and you're having a hard time subscribing or you want to subscribe but don't know how, please email me, feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. I would be more than happy to walk you through that process. And I know I don't do a good enough job of explaining the Google side of things because I'm so heavily focused on iTunes, and that's where a lot of podcasters are at. But I do know there are a lot of Google users out there, so I apologize for not giving you the focus and the attention that you deserve. And on that note, I think it is time to get out of here. Make sure you go get your Hell is Real shirts over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/shirts. Every shirt you buy helps support our podcast here at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. So for Bill Wolf and Boston Brazell, I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will catch up with you next week.